Greetings and welcome to CAFA21, the Caribbean Fine Arts Fair in Barbados. I am Alexis Alleyne-Caputo of Grace and Graffiti, and with me is David Emmanuel Noel of Occhi Arts and Entertainment. Today's artist talk is one of a series from Fly on the Diaspora. The scope of today's artist talk is Art in a Post-Digital COVID World. David, will you join me?
I think, as Alexis has said, we are living in a digital world, a COVID-infested digital world. So as we endure the effects of that, our lifestyles and a dependence on technology is a default setting for us to be able to communicate, particularly as we're illustrating now. Zoom is now quite a popular destination for any engagement. And obviously we are using that now for the art fair. But it's not just us. Obviously, many businesses, many families, every sort of corner of the globe is using technology in this way. What does this mean, particularly for art houses and museums? How do they adapt? Now, we can see that we are seeing lots of galleries, not just obviously at this particular art fair, but galleries, institutions, and using technology and using the digital world to adapt and change their business models. Not only are they doing that, but they're also encouraging a further growing audience and retaining their audiences and providing new and different services. So what does that mean in terms of the impact it will have on the art industry, on artists and their availability to sell and exhibit and to collaborate? The questions that we're going to be asking you is, how do we adapt and how do we reflect our ability to change for the benefit of art and for the artists' careers? Today we are joined by three very talented artists. Patricia Brintle was born in Haiti and emigrated to the United States in 1964. Although she has made the US her residence, her colourful style reflects her native land. Her works on the Holocaust are on permanent display at the Holocaust Center of Temple, Judea in New York, and are used as teaching tools for visitors. Shadi Burton majored in biology and physics and even taught high school biology for 3 years. He currently produces art using a style that is influenced by nature, music, pop culture, social commentary, and his odd sense of humour. Diogenes Ballester is a visual artist, educator, and writer. He holds an MFA from the University of Wisconsin, Madison, and a BFA from the Catholic University of Puerto Rico. He has taught as a professor of art at the Cooper Union in New York City, the State University of New York at New Paltz, the College of New Rochelle, and the State University of New York at Albany. So I think that the first question I wanted to ask the panelists is, will virtual art exhibitions and online galleries become a primary platform for showcasing art and artists? Patricia, can we start with you, if we may?
Well, what I can say from the get-go is that we're going to need to learn a lot. This is very new to me. And having been used to putting a show and having people actually see and touch the artwork and speak with the artist, it's very different now because you don't really the relationship between viewer and the art is completely different. Like if I go to see one of Diogenes' art, I can see it, like I see the one that's right behind him. I can have a little bit of an idea of what it is. But if the artwork is right in front of me, I can come close, I can back up, I can see the thickness of it, I can see all the texture, and all that speaks to the viewer. All that is a conversation that happens between the viewer and the art. And I believe that this is something that we would be missing when we have when the art is no longer in person. However, even given that, we had to adapt to not speaking with each other in person when we had the telephone. We had to adapt to quite many things in our lives, and I think we will adapt to this one. Although we will gain by having the information so readily available, we will lose the being there with the art. So it's going to have to be a balancing act that we will have to do.
Do you think, but just touching on that and having that balancing act, would you say that there are sort of advantages we can play with on, you know, the fact that lots of people would argue, well, they wouldn't have gone to an art gallery, but now with technology being available, like platforms like now, whether you're able to engage with the artists, is that something that is a justifiable sort of compensation?
Absolutely. I think there are advantages on both sides. The advantage of having the art online and being able to access it so quickly is that I can take my time looking at it. I can, lay down in bed and, look at it. Whereas if the art is in the gallery, I have to move and go to the gallery in order to experience that in-person feeling. So yes, it does have its advantages. And we will have, as artists, we will need to learn and we will need to find when is it better to have the in-person and when is it better to promote it as online. For example, an organization that I'm familiar with just had an auction, and they had the auction online, and they actually did better with the online auction than they did if people had to go to the auction house and bid, because now they had people from all over the world bidding on that one painting, something that they would not have had if they were not online. So again, it's going to be a balancing act, and
Sure.
my big problem with all that is the learning curve.
Yeah. There's always something.
The learning curve. That learning curve is very difficult. Yeah. Right now, the extent of my knowledge is clicking on the link, appearing, and talking.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to learn a whole lot more than that if I want to be part of this new world.
No, definitely. I think that you speak for us all, particularly when it comes to handling all elements of Zoom.
May I ask, Patricia, if you could condense, how do you feel that this has impacted the fracture, I suppose? There's been a fracture, obviously, in human relations, human engagement, right?
It has, tremendously. The impact is huge. I just spent a whole year without hugging anybody. You cannot imagine how much impact that has on me as a person. I'm a hugger, you know, and I cannot even hug my daughter who lives away from here. She lives upstate. When she visits, I can't even hug her. So, and everybody's with a mask. So half of our face, we've learned to know people by their eyes now, you know, so we've become a little more observant, I have to say, and by the way people walk. So our sense of observation has been heightened. But
Mm.
I do miss the personal contact. The advantage of that is I'm at home. I get to paint. So I've painted more now than I've done in the past years. Um, and also, because of that, I don't have to spend, you know, a half hour to an hour fighting traffic in order to go somewhere. You
Mm.
know, I have 5 minutes. The meeting is on, click, and I'm there. So again, that balancing act. I hope we can find a way to put the two together, you know, and not just go one way and delete the other way at all. Because yes, we are human and we need that human interaction.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, it's Shadrach. It's some would say it's a generational thing. You're, I think, slightly younger than me. 1986, you were born.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of technology and the use of it, how do you? What's your approach? What's your sort of perspective on the way things are moving forward?
Yeah, as Miss Brittle was saying, you have to find a balance between the two because as an artist, especially, I really love going to art galleries and art openings. I love going to the gallery and seeing the audience interact with my work, seeing them walk up to the painting and watch, observe the strokes, observe the texture, and then stand back and watch it from different angles and actually interact with the artist and the audience and ask questions, and it just feels a lot more personal. But right now, when you just post your work in an online in a virtual exhibition, it doesn't really have that same sort of interactive personal, like, artist audience interaction thing. But you do have the advantage of the audience now has more availability, more sorry has your work is more available to the audience, in the sense that they can be in their bedroom viewing it. Maybe later in the day they might remember it and be like, oh, I want to show it to my spouse, and they'll pull it up and say, what do you think of this work? And they can easily access your work instead of having to go all the way to the gallery. But I definitely prefer to have people, like, an actual opening when people come, and you have some wine, you walk around, you interact with the audience,
Yeah.
and you can see them moving in and out of the halls and checking out the work in person. So I feel like she said, it's a matter of finding the balance. I definitely agree with her on that.
Thank you. And would you mind to follow on that, Diogenes? And I hope I pronounced your name correctly. One of the many,
yeah, no.
one of the many ways you pronounce it.
Well, there's for me this is an interesting question because I think we are living a very ephemeral experience through this. The aspect of physical presence of ourselves in the whole process of empathy with the artwork and the audience is missing. Definitely, we still with the mask on our face. So I remember when I was working with art and computers in 1984. That was the beginning. I did this installation of entitled Hybrid. And it was very difficult for me to understand the physical experience, physical perception, and the technological perception. What it means to experience technology talking for me instead of me expressing myself. So that was the hybrid situation that I was dealing at that time. And now I understand that this is a biotechnology that control is a robotic experience. And going ahead on that time, I call that technology at that time archaic technology, because today we have advanced so much. We are in the robotic, we are in technocracy, how they're controlling through technology our life, our experiences, and they want to control the artist too. The artist, whoever is the artist who dealing well with technology, going to be a successful artist. The artist who work with the certain with some ideas of the what I call the classic art, probably. No, I don't think it will have so much successful. The robots who can paint.
Mm.
The robot who can make sculpture. You see. So, what is our mission as an artist today in this new era? And our mission is to connect synergetically with our community, to begin to create a different situation of our work for the human being to be able to grow together and somehow share what we have. And instead of being controlled by a technology, they control your bank, they control everything, they control your phone, they control. So we are under this process. So we are like the new slaves, the new era. And this is a very I question that in my art. I love to paint. I love to work work with objects. My assemblage, my installations. I even integrate internet in my work. You go to my webpage, you will see how I did integrate internet, because I thought it was very important to move out of the space where you are. I love to have the installation one place, but by having the internet blogs, I connect with the world. My last installation at the Ponce Museum, that entitled Memory of Nature, the Rhythm of Life, I create a particular blog in which everyone can see. About my relationship between the Caribbean zone, but using technology, using actually the automatic atomic clock of the NASA, which I put it together in a particular clock that actually addressed to different pieces in installation in the museum. But using the Caribbean zone, but now I'm open to the world and the universe. But that is the kind of technology that I get because my experience in 1984 dealing with the art and computer at that time. Now they call it art and technology. I don't even call it digital art. Art technology, and the technology is technocratic. You see, so whoever can make good business and market with technology is going to be a successful person. For example, everyone has to apply to any grants using the website. Before, it's nice to go and feel all that, very nice, and have to do like we used to do before, but there's still a control. Someone, someplace, looking at you and see who you are and documenting you, and all that data go to the main computers in which you are classified. Not just with a security number, not with the social security number or your phone number, but many other issues about you. So to me, it's a problem. It's a problem that artists today we are living in terms of no. It's not just about taking a brush and paint. What is our mission as an artist today? It's a new era, third decade of the 21st century.
That kind of segues into the second question we had, which was the role of the art gallery, particularly in this sort of post-pandemic world, because again, the galleries, they already have an audience, they have reputation, they have links, they have contacts. They're facilitating obviously the virtual gallery space. How do you think their intentions or their aspiration marry to the artist, or is there no disregard to what, as you're saying, the artist needs to do? what's the purpose and role and the main sort of ambition of the art houses or the galleries, would you say?
This question for me?
Well, no, this segues into the next question. So this is a question for you. But I mean, if you want to continue particularly on that subject, you want to start the answering on.
No, I allow the other to talk, and then I will.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Ladies' honor.
Yes, ladies' honor. Patricia, thank you.
Well, you're a lady too, actually, so either of you.
This is a really great subject to ponder, because if we leave it as is, the galleries will become obsolete. And I don't think we want that, because we do want to still have this person. We are people, regardless of how extraordinary the technology will become. We still basically will be human beings who will need to have the interaction with other human beings and with the world around us. However, the galleries will have to step up and integrate the technology with their walls, so to speak. Like right now, there is something going on with Van Gogh, where the whole Van Gogh's artwork is all over the walls, I've seen a fabulous concert in a church where all the people who were singing from different parts of the walls of the church. It was fabulously done. This is something that we would not be able to do with just the choir up on the altar. So there are many avenues that we will need to go into, and it's going to be up to the galleries to really step up their offering to the public, so that somebody who would want to come and experience it in person would be able to do it, but they will have to do it in such a way that they're giving at least the same benefit to the one who is coming who is looking at it from the computer. So they will need to have a choice. The gallery owners will have to present a choice. And the choice is going to have to be simultaneous. It's not either or.
I tiptoed in a wee bit just too quickly, but one of my major concerns is that these galleries do not. We already know that many artists of color have been exploited in many of these galleries, world galleries, in fact, because our art is all over the world. So one of my primary concerns is that these exploitive practices do not now increase as a result of being in a digital world. And by exploitive practice, I'm specifically referring to galleries who are now leaning into the work of artists to keep the foundation going. They are now relying very heavily on the sale of art, African art, by the way, and or Caribbean art, so that their framing can stand. And that is a reason to have cause for concern. So I don't know if you'd like to speak to that. I would welcome your thoughts, Shadra.
You mean on the sale of the African art, or just the role of the gallery?
On the exploitive practices of many galleries and museums that are now leaning heavily into, or that are now reliant on selling art by Africans, Afro-Caribbeans, so that they can keep the machine going, so to speak. It is happening. It's already happening.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of artists need to realize that right now we have the power. We no longer need to be so reliant on the art galleries. So And maybe it might have needed COVID-19 to come along for people to realize that, everything can be done online, or you don't necessarily need the art galleries. Not that I'm saying the galleries are no longer necessary, but they are on the brink of becoming obsolete. But the only reason they will remain relevant and necessary is because of experience. People tend to enjoy that experience of going to a gallery, or the fact that you can go to a physical place and see the art in person. You can compare it to going to school, going to an actual university versus going to school online.
Yes.
Online schooling has been
Absolutely.
available for many years right now, but some people will still prefer to go to an actual university, like go to live in a dormitory, make friends, experience what it really is like to be on campus. So that might be the reason why the galleries will remain relevant. The fact that they offer that sort of experience. But the artists now, they must realize that they no longer need to be so dependent on galleries as before. We now have the power. The power is in our hands. The internet, the whole world is available to us right now. It's the world at our fingertips. So to these galleries who might be exploiting the African artists or the other artists of color, I think right now the tides are about to turn, because they will no longer have that kind of power. The power is now switching over to the artists themselves. So I don't think it's something that will continue too much, unless if we allow it to continue. You understand?
With thanks, of course, indeed. Thank you.
No problem.
Diogenes, any commentary on this?
Oh wow, that's I've been experienced galleries. I have a gallery in Puerto Rico, in San Francisco, here in New York, and I I remember. A lot of galleries today, for example, are closing. Are closing because we have a sample of the Marlboro Gallery in New York. We got the gallery in Paris, Yvonne Lambert Gallery, closed. Powerful galleries that they decided to just document the artists and live from the web, basically. And then so because they realized that the marketing is no longer a space to exhibit the work. It is just to have the warehouse with the work, and have the website, and have the work available to sell, not just to sell, but also to exhibit in museums, in biennials, triennials around the world, and they actually have the economical power to do that. And it's a lot of the African diaspora artists are called. They are for descendant, including myself. We are receiving different invitations around the world to exhibit and do this kind of thing. The ball game changed. It's no longer a gallery in a place that are going to represent the artist and these people are going to make profit of the artist. It's how the artist can can create the market through the web by to connect with everyone. But then, what kind of product they want to sell? That's the problem, you know. So right now, seems like we are in a good shape, but before I wasn't like that. Uh, and so when I'm looking at the situation of the art, and my goal is what I do for my community. What is my community? Is that those galleries that want to create a first name of my name and to also become big star, or what I want to really work with the community that that in somehow we can support each other in a very synergetic way, so we can grow together and create a better situation as a human being. What is the mission of the art? See, I have to depend on the gallery to make myself an artist. Then why am I an artist?
Mm.
You see, why am I an artist? So I've been 50 years in this scene, working and enjoy my work. Doesn't matter what happened in the art. It is something that comes from the soul. The idea that energy comes from the soul is that can somehow you say, oh, I got a wonderful idea. I want to work this project because I believe in this project. Because I had to write a proposal and I send it. Hey, if I get the proposal, oh yes, I have to work on that thing. No. It's something that I believe that I'm connected with. It's an energy that moves me. Like this philosopher, Gilbert Song used to call it the elan vital. Esa fuerza, this internal energy that moves you. As an artist. So what? I mean, computer can do that for me. Oh, they can do wonderful things. They can do incredible technical things. Technology can do incredible things. But what about the human being? What about we are living in this world? You see, what about the climate change? What the environment where we live? That's why my last installation I connected to the element. Without water, with water we're going to be the goal of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Air, and without air, the good air to grow, and the good sound, we can have better in the Caribbean. What are we gonna do? We can have all that technology, all beautiful thing on the market and stuff, but we have nothing, and so we become a slave of the technology. So, do we want to be a number, a social security number? Do we want to be no? Oh yes, this artist number one or number two, do this and that. Oh, the artist number one score like that. I don't think I like that game. I don't like that game. I think we need to propose something as an artist today. For the new era, I propose the idea of being an archaeologist. An archaeologist that looking for something. An archaeologist that it is an artist that have a powerful being. There is a powerful being that connect with another powerful being, and we can create powerful things together.
It kind of sounds like you're summarizing to say that there's a sort of an awakening or a paradigm shift in terms of artists understanding their true potential is basically, is within them, not within someone else's, acknowledgement of your art or your power.
If I'm allowed to say something, you are perfectly right, because that's what they're trying to disconnect us. They connect us from ourselves to a technology. That we plug into a technology, but that we disconnect ourselves, our own soul. And that is not good. I mean, I think that's not good. I don't know what you think, but I don't want to disconnect my own soul. I'm gonna die anyhow. So what am I gonna do? So it's very important to be very sincere, very honest to ourselves, and why we are an artist, what we do, and what we pursue as an artist. I know the technology is wonderful and all this things like that, but cannot control my life. Cannot control my life. I'm disagree with that. I mean, I'm telling you, I work with computers since 1984. We start when at the time we connect internet, but it wasn't existing internet. I learned how to program in Pascal and all this like that. We call from computer to computers and all this thing like that. Later on, I started to explore more. At the end of the 90s, when the internet come out and something like that, and continue doing that kind of thing. But it's I understand. It's a ephemeral thing. Cannot control my life. The song is more powerful than this technology that I say is powerful. The energy that comes from the sun is powerful and enrich my body every day.
I will say one thing with absolute certainty is that COVID-19 has, inspired, but in many instances forced artists to dig very deeply into their practice and to shift their perspective on the meaning of their artistic practice. How they are presenting this to the world, because now we're in these we're now in a position where we are navigating in a cautious world. I'm using metaphor here, but it really has forced us to create from a space of isolation. Creating from a space of isolation, and as a result of that, you really have to tie into, in my opinion, psychology. You're working from a different perspective. How can you get the work to continue to land in a way where it's true to its meaning?
Yes.
Yeah.
This association, they call it this association, you know, this association to ourselves, it is what I'm trying to say before. Who these artists, I mean, I understand, I have a lot of friends who work with computers, and they are, I mean, coming from the existentialistic point of view, a computer because they connect and they are part of the computer. And I saw little kids playing with the games and everything like that. Especially a long time ago with the Nintendo and the old games today, they are part of that game. They feel that part. It's like if when someone is driving a car, they feel part of the car, the whole existential situation, you know. But I mean, then actually, and I have a big problem with that because a lot of those kids ended being in the Air Force or part of the Army, and they were using all the technology, and they dropped a lot of bombs that they thought was a game. But they killed a lot of people in Syria and many other parts of the world. You see, and then when they found out, they become affected mentally affected because they thought it was a game. And that's what I'm talking about here, about the ephemeral aspect. Because ephemeral look like a nice scene and it look like a game, a beautiful thing. But what is the substance of that? How deep we can go to ourselves and control our life, you know? And not commit those kind of the mistakes and promote those mistakes to other young people, young generation.
Yes, indeed. This is proving to be a very, very fruitful artist dialogue. And just to tiptoe into rounding off this artist talk, I'd like to pose the question of what you respectively feel the importance of Caribbean art is in celebrating the diaspora's culture. And we'll start with Patricia, if we will. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, of course. What do you believe the importance of Caribbean art is in celebrating diaspora's culture?
Being from Haiti and being very interested and, you know, immersing myself in the Haitian Revolution, I've become very aware of the events that have happened. That this is essentially where it started before, but this is where it really started, where people from Europe came and were greedy and needed more labor. And then all of a sudden, you know, these people from Africa were brought over as laborers. And all these laborers were kept as slaves in this. And I'm just looking at Haiti, you know, in this one island until they took their freedom. They decided, okay, no, we're not going. It's not a linear history, you know, but I'm simplifying it. So they took their freedom, but it doesn't stop there because they won the freedom in November. And that same month, friends said, I don't want to be part of the New World anymore. And says, I have Louisiana, I don't want Louisiana anymore. And sells Louisiana for a pittance. And now the United States is twice its size. So that little island, who won its freedom, something that was unique, and that little black nation had repercussion around the world that people are not even aware of now.
Indeed.
People in Missouri, are fighting and so forth. They're not realizing that it's because Black people decided they were not going to be free anymore, and they were not going to be slaves anymore, and that's why they live in Missouri. If it wasn't for that,
Yes.
they would be French. I don't know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
history, people need to go back and really see where they come from in order to really understand.
Yes.
So African art, Caribbean art is at the basis, to me, of all art. So in order for Americans to really understand their artists, they need to first go there and look at the Caribbean art and see what it says in order to understand why they feel the way they feel.
Thank you. Very noted. And I also take note of Toussaint right in the background.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's a she. She looks like Toussaint. It's not Toussaint. I do have Toussaint also, but this is a woman who was a lieutenant in Toussaint's army. Her name is Sanité Belair.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I the first to have made that error?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
People look at it, nobody really, because they know I'm always in the midst of my artwork.
Right.
So,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
That's an important piece there, though, the importance of, the use of art in education.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. Shadrach, if you wouldn't mind, and then we'll follow with Diogenes, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Close out. Thank you.
Yeah, for the importance of the question is about the importance of the Caribbean artists.
Caribbean fine. Yeah.
Okay, in the diaspora, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so because we have more of a direct connection with the culture, or like the maybe like a direct connection to also with the history, like she was mentioning about the Haitian Revolution and all that stuff. So it is very important for us, to keep on having that influence on the diaspora. So they might not have that genuine. Well, of course, they connected in the sense that they were from the Caribbean, or they were from whichever country that they originated, and they moved to wherever they are now to become the diaspora. But they will not have that genuine connection that we who are in the Caribbean might have, or the artists of the Caribbean. So we'll always have a bit of a stronger influence, or maybe a more direct influence in terms of the culture. So I feel like it's like we keep the culture alive, or we have a bigger role to play in keeping the culture alive. And then we can also be there to keep on inspiring, or keep on passing on that positive energy, or just keep on being there to inspire the next generation of artists, or inspire those in the diaspora. So even when they might be like maybe running out of inspiration, or maybe just not as inspired, I guess, they can always come back to the Caribbean, or come back to, or look into the art of the Caribbean artists, and they can gain a bit of positive inspiration, or just positive energy from that. So I feel like we have a very important role to play, the Caribbean artists, in maintaining the culture and allowing it to be passed on to the next generations, or passed on to those in the diaspora, because like I said, we have a more a stronger influence due to the fact that we are like directly in the source of the culture, you know.
Do you think that, I mean, with that in mind, that there should be more of a sort of strategic effort from, you know, the cohort of visual artists, well, all artists in the Caribbean, to have more of a structured role in the development of local economy, local educational frameworks, things that will make a difference and extend beyond, you know, the aspects of art being something more of an aesthetic or something of a, you know, a side draw, but more an integral part of developing local economies, developing and celebrating culture. Do you think that there's a role to play for visual artists in doing that?
Yeah, definitely. Visual artists, we have a lot to do, especially in terms of in the Caribbean, for example. Our appreciation for art is not exactly on that same level as, say, in a metropolitan city like, say, Paris or New York or even Tokyo or somewhere where people seem to be a little bit more into the art, or just, for example, many people here in the Caribbean, we don't really get abstract art as much, or even if you get it, they might more appreciate like something that's more relatable, you know, like a scenery or something that you can identify. Okay, you see that's a man and his donkey and they're going to a market or something. So this is like something you can make a direct connection to. But when it comes to art that is like abstract or a little bit more symbolic, or maybe just not exactly so direct, some people might just wonder what's that, or it might just not be truly appreciated. But when you look at cities or people in places like New York or Paris or somewhere, they already have that culture for appreciating all forms of art. It's already within their lifestyle or their psychology, their psyche. So they already have that kind of appreciation. So that's what we need to do here in the Caribbean, or in the even in the diaspora too, but for the people of Caribbean origin. But we just need to develop that, you know, make it be more, just create greater appreciation for art, you know, make it be a lot more easy for young people to grow up and appreciate all forms of art. For even in music to appreciate all forms of music. So a lot of music, young kids right now, they will not listen to jazz or classical music. They might listen to maybe soca or reggae or something, but maybe they might not really have that kind of appreciation for all types of music. Or maybe they might listen to hip hop, but not maybe techno or something that might be played. Maybe you don't really hear it on the Caribbean radio stations, but maybe when you go to a nightclub in New York or somewhere in China or somewhere, you will hear a lot of electronic music and stuff like that. So we just need to create more awareness, and that will in turn create a lot more appreciation for all forms of art across the board.
Thank you. Thank you.
No
And
problem.
Diogenes, I pronounced your name 3 different ways. I'm hoping that I get it
Oh,
right.
you got it right.
I was going to call him Mr. Ballester. That's the
Oh no, Diogenes is fine. You know that.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I will have to thank you very much, because this discussion has been also important for me to listen different voices talking about different issues in the art. And when I was Deborah Shadrach was talking, and Patricia, I was thinking my experience with the Caribbean art. You know, because I born in a place that is 4 meters to the Caribbean Sea, called La Playa de Ponce. You know, but when I went to other places, oh, you're not Caribbean, because you're Puerto Rican.
Oh,
And you see, it's a very interesting. My great grandfather came from Haiti, So it's a very interesting that when I curated exhibition at the Krakow Triennial in Poland and then in Paris, we well actually I was looking for the issue of we have so I mean more than 600 years of experience in the arts with the coming from the European to who we are today and how we are defining our own way of art. You see, and that history that have many aspects. You know, the colonial have been one of those and, and the post-colonial also, and the empire and the way they worked it and time treating us in different empires. So we actually took all the word that they influenced us and we began to redefine them, to recontextualize them in a different way that become a different aesthetic, different situation that people begin to recognize around the world as Caribbean art. But the thing is that the more the art is connected and start accepting the history and many things like that, they begin to do like the globalization. I mean, they start working with the idea of the globalization to connect with other kind of arts in other part of the world and adopting them as part of the Caribbean art that I see in many things. So I don't know really what is Caribbean art when you start adopting things for other places as part of the aesthetic. I understand in the art, you know, the exploration and how you can connect different things is important. So what it means are, so then I started talking about trans-Caribbean art. Trans-Caribbean art because when you start working from the memory of your place, I mean, my place, La Playa Ponce, is right there in Puerto Rico, but I'm here in New York, in another barrio, Puerto Rican barrio here, you know? So it's but when I was in Paris over there, was another trans-Caribbean experience. And when I was in China, was another trans-Caribbean experience. See? So now we are dealing with the Caribbean art that is global. Global. It is not just we not belong to one place. We're creating something coming from all that from that long history that somehow we can talk about different issues. We can. So that's why I define myself as an archaeologist. We go out. We talk about issue, the history and things like that, all kind of data, but we don't have a philosophy. So what kind of philosophy are we looking for? Well, then we have now archaeology, that's in the book that I'm writing, as an aesthetic process that deal with an art for the new. See, and that connect with technology, that connect with different exploration in art, because it's no longer the art should be specify something that I am a printmaker and a painter, and I say no. We are an artist. When we have an issue or concept or something, we deal with that, and doesn't matter what the medium is. We want work. You have to be a technology, or dealing with the block, or dealing with the painting, or dealing with assemblage, or dealing with or doing a public art, or different kind of way. It's a full manifestation of art. You know, it's not just about one thing. So looking at this process and creating art is exciting because then when we are working together as an artist, we created that powerful movement that we need to create in the Caribbean art. It is not just one artist, it's about a whole movement. When I wrote the book, the article of here in the barrio, I remember they invited me to present my work. I said, no, I want to present the movement. See? Today they know the movement of barrio. See? And this is a Caribbean thing. Now it's not just about one artist. They're trying to focus one artist. It is this global movement, they call it Trans-Caribbean, that it is important for us because we can go to any part of the world and be acknowledged. Like when I went to China, my best present for them was an experience that I did was an African woman dancing on the Caribbean Sea with other dancing. That was my present to them, you know, the global piece that I did there. Going back to this globalization issue, I'm looking at it's not about globalization. I call it multipolarization because we have to deal with our own identity within that context. Globalization manage and make us invisible. Multipolarization keep us together in a way that we can talk to each other. See, into that conceptual and this global concept. You see, and that's what when I wrote that essay for the Greco Triennial, that's what I did. I focused on the multipolarization. I call it multipolarized engrenage. You know, and that was so interesting to me dealing with that situation. And this comes from the Caribbean. This concept from the Caribbean is not something that is we adopted for a German philosopher or a French philosopher or things like that. We are developing not just art, we're making not just art, we are developing a philosophy. We're developing something beyond the parameters that they think we can do.
I know we're conscious, we have to be conscious of time, but I think that's one sort of anchor. I think that we need to be well aware of as a diaspora, and what I'm seeing from what you're saying and from what all of you have said is that there's sort of, I think, 2 or 3 main sort of key elements that I'm taking from this, and that is obviously the power of the individual, the artist, and that ability to empower others based on that skill set that you have. And secondly, that mobilization has to be global. It's not purely just looking at the regional activities within the Caribbean, but obviously the diaspora as a whole, and obviously a wider influence. As I say, I'm conscious of the fact that we're overrunning. Alexis, is there anything that you want to say in addition to our esteemed panelists?
I'd like to say not necessarily overrunning, although we are overrunning. I'd like to say that it's just been such a well-rounded exchange and a clear signal that these conversations need to continue. And that is precisely our intent. So I think that this is an excellent starting point for us to continue the dialogue, continue and elevate the dialogue. And I'd like to thank you all respectively for your contributions in this artist talk today. Very much valued, very much necessary, and obviously very much critical to the times that we are all living in.
We thank you for joining us today. Remember to visit Caribbean.global